Welcome to Catholic Connection with Teresa Tomeo, keeping you connected to your faith and your world. Teresa tackles the issues of faith and culture, the pro-life message, and media awareness. And now, here's Teresa Tomeo.
If there's some role for me that I want to do and that the president-elect wants me to do, you know, we've known each other for 14 years. We'll talk about it.
It doesn't mean that he agrees with everything that President-elect Trump has promised to pursue. He's deeply concerned about some of the priorities that Mr. Trump laid out in the context of the campaign.
Donald Trump is going to be our president. We owe him an open mind and the chance to lead. Our constitutional democracy enshrines the peaceful transfer of power. And we don't just respect that, we cherish it.
Not my president! Trump's got one! Not my president!
Welcome back. It's Catholic Connection, 877-573-7825. Tomorrow, Father John Mercado, another wonderful priest that's on EWTN, is going to be joining me talking about the impact of prayer and fasting in this election. And we're taking your calls and maybe just your comments and thoughts 2 days after what was a huge upset and a surprise for so many people in terms of what happened with the election, where the people came out and said, enough is enough. I think it was Obamacare. I think it was what we saw in the Clinton emails. I think for us as a people of God, we know, of course, we were concerned about life and also about marriage and other intrinsic evils that are out there and seem to be growing. So hopefully, God willing. But I'll tell you what, Father and Tom, if we don't do something with what we've been given in terms of the fact that we have a lot of people in Congress and in the White House now who say they support what we support in terms of the natural law, and if we don't do something with this, then shame on us.
Well, absolutely. This is just day 2.
Right.
No, this is going to be a long thing. It's like turning that giant cruise ship around in the middle of the ocean, isn't it, Father?
Absolutely. And I think that, you know, most people are where we are. You know, it's just that, but our leadership has not been. And so now when the country says, excuse me, you be where we are. You don't tell us, we tell you. We elect you. We tell you to represent what we believe. And so that's, I think, where we are now.
Right.
And so by God's grace, we got to hold their feet to the fire and say, now live this. Don't just tell us one thing to get elected. Now we got to come and start living all these realities. And I think we will by God's grace. We have some great people.
Right. And he's got some great advisors that have been working with him. Very
strong
Catholic advisors,
absolutely.
By the way. All right, Don calling from Cincinnati, Ohio on line 3. You're listening on Sacred Heart.
That'll be our last thing, but we've got a lot of stuff coming up all day today, all day tomorrow.
Okay. And Father Larry, you are here in the house with me. Appreciate you taking some phone calls and raising some, bringing some points up for folks. And I'm going to share some of my concerns that I've seen. But let's go to a call. We have Dewan, who is in Washington, D.C., and I'm not sure where you're listening. Dewan, are you listening on Sirius or are you listening on one of our stations, WMET? Thanks for calling in.
I'm listening on Sirius.
Oh, okay, great. So Sirius 130. Thanks for calling. And what's your question or your comment this morning, Dewan?
My comment is that, I am Catholic, and I'm listening to the stuff that y'all are saying as far as how people are dealing with the election. And I think that, when I listen to y'all, it's like on some lines either hypocritical or contradicting. Because in 2008, when President Obama won, a lot of people in the church were all in an uproar because they felt like he was pro-choice and he was for homosexuality. My priest told us when he okayed the homosexuals being married that, God said do not judge. And that judgment is on all things, and I think that you are doing a dissatisfaction to the Catholic faith when you say one thing, but then you also are saying another thing out of the other side of your mouth.
Okay, well, let's let before it's in 21 minutes past the hour, Dewan. I don't mean to interrupt, but we have 4 minutes left, and we have Father Larry Richards here, so I want you to respond. But first, I want to say something about the who am I to judge. When we're talking about judgment, it's very important for you to understand that we're talking about not judging the heart, but judging people's actions, and we do that all the time in our society today, we judge actions. That's why we have law. Otherwise, we would have anarchy consistently. So in terms of being told that, I don't know if this is what you were told by your priest, if you were told that so-called same-sex marriage is okay, you were incorrectly taught. And let me have Father Larry pick that up.
Absolutely. We agree that we are to love every single person. We don't know people's hearts. So I can't sit there and say what's in someone's heart is wrong because I don't know what's there. But I can say if they say that I can go and, let's say you're at home right now and someone feels like they don't like what you just said and they decide to go in and they want to kill you. Well, I can make a judgment there that that's not right to kill her because you have your own life. So we can't just dismiss things and say we're being hypocritical. We got to have objective truth, objective reality, but we got to look at how people live. And so we can say, listen, that you are beloved of God. Obama is beloved of God. Jesus Christ died for him. But when he says a woman can kill a baby, and he says he's going to do everything in his power as president to make sure that happens, we must say no. And that is not a judgment. That's loving of that child who's about to be killed.
And of him to teach him the truth.
Absolutely. And so we got to watch that there are certain things that are absolutely wrong by God. And when the Holy Father says, who am I to judge? That was completely taken out of context. He was saying if a person, he was talking about a priest, and if a priest is trying to live a celibate life, no matter what he's attracted to, who am I to judge that man's heart? Is what he was saying. So when people just say, that's not the way Jesus was. He judged a lot of people when you listen to the gospel, and you look at the gospels. So again, that's not hypocritical in any way, shape, or form.
And Dewan, I'm really glad that you called in, that you're listening, and I hope you still listen, and because we're going to be taking a lot more calls today and questions. Unfortunately, we have about a minute left before we go to a break. But again, it sounds like that you're getting some incorrect information about where our current president has stood on these issues. In terms of abortion, he is, and this is just fact. This is not any type of a judgment, again, on his heart, but this is fact, looking at the actions. He has been, in the history of this country, the most pro-abortion president we've ever had. And he also lied to the American people when he came in regarding the issue of marriage, because he came in back in 2008 saying he still stood up for marriage between a man and a woman. And then when we find out, he says, well, he's evolved in his position. Again, we don't know what's on his heart, but we felt that we were lied to about that, because many people, even in the Catholic Church, gave him a chance because they thought that he was at least supporting marriage between a man and a woman. But thank you for calling in. I really appreciate it, and I do hope that you continue to listen. 877-573-7825. A couple things I want to get to, and we only have about 10 minutes left, so I really want to get to this. I want Andrew to play a short quote from Hillary Clinton yesterday from her concession speech, which I thought over well, had a very good tone. It was obviously extremely difficult for her. This was her life's goal, so, we pray for her, but if you listen, and this is what I was saying earlier in terms of the presentation I do, discerning media messages in an election area and beyond, there's code language, and you said Father had that in his homily this morning. There are code things that they say that the people who are in the same camp as they are in terms of trying to change the church, which came out in the WikiLeaks email, that there was an effort within certain people who say that they're Catholic but not, to get the church to change on core teachings, which shows you how badly catechized they were, because it's not going to change. People have been trying to do that for 2,000 years.
I think we're democracy.
But listen to what she said yesterday, and Andrew's queuing that up right now. Now, we say religious freedom, based on our Constitution, but they have a very different and very limited idea of what religious freedom means, and that came out yesterday. Take a listen.
But I still believe in America, and I always will. And if you do, then we must accept this result and then look to the future. Donald Trump is going to be our president. We owe him an open mind and the chance to lead. Our constitutional democracy enshrines the peaceful transfer of power. And we don't just respect that, we cherish it. It also enshrines other things: the rule of law, the principle that we are all equal in rights and dignity, freedom of worship and expression. We respect and cherish these values too.
Freedom of worship and expression.
And it sounds so good, doesn't it?
Yes, but the Constitution confirms and establishes freedom of religion. They wanted to limit it to freedom of worship.
And they want us to not live what we believe, but we go to the closet and we pray to anybody we want to pray and do anything we want in private. But part of it, again from the very beginning, is that we are free to live our religion as we want, and the government is to stay out of it. It doesn't tell us what to believe. It doesn't tell us how to worship. It doesn't tell us what we're supposed to preach. It allows us to be free to do those things. And so, again, and especially the last 8 years, we have got so far from freedom of religion. They're trying to say...
freedom of expression. Because
absolutely.
Anybody who expresses something differently than the agenda of pro-gay marriage, pro-abortion, pro-transgender now, which was just thrust upon us since the so-called same-sex marriage ruling last summer, we're not allowed to speak. We're not allowed to. So there is no real freedom, even of worship, because of the influx of what's going on.
And again, they're moving towards a word, not anymore, I would hope, but like in Canada, if you get up and you sit there and say that two gay men can't be married, that's considered hate speech. You can be arrested. You know, and so they want to start doing that here. You know, so that's why when they say we're here to worship who you want, but keep your mouth shut is what they're saying.
Yeah, but we can worship our own pagan gods, of sexuality,
do what you want,
and the culture.
Live and let live. But that's like, well, yes, let's live and let live, but we need to be able to live. And
here's another quote from her last year, which set off alarm bells, of course, in Catholic and other solid Christian communities. Far too many women, and she said this last year at a big women's summit, where she was Can you put that back on the screen, Andrew? I lost that quote. Where'd it go? Well, anyway, what she was talking about is she was literally saying that the teachings of the church or belief systems that are rooted in these churches, here it is, far too many women are still denied critical access to reproductive health care and safe childbirth. That means we need abortion at all costs, any time through 9 months of pregnancy. That's another part of the code language. All the laws we pass don't count for much if they're not enforced, which means go after the Catholics, get them to pay for abortion and contraception in their insurance plan, get everybody to jump in on the boat and in the pool. Rights have to exist in practice, not just on paper. Laws, and this is the part that just set me through the roof, laws have to be backed up with resources and political will and deep-seated cultural codes. Religious beliefs and structural biases have to be changed. Can you say the Catholic Church? Thank you very much.
Exactly what they want us to say. And that's what they want to change. They keep thinking that we get and we vote on these things.
But it gets a democracy.
Exactly. But we're not a democracy. We are a church of revelation, which means God tells us how to live. We respond. We obey or we disobey. We don't change it. You know, I love the opening line of the Catechism. St. John Paul II talks about guarding the deposit of the faith is the mission entrusted by Christ to the church. That our job is to guard what God has revealed to us in faith and to lay down our life for that and proclaim that to the world. Our job isn't to take that and change it so it fits into our own daily life the way I want. God, you live the way I want you to live. No. God tells us and we live the way He calls us to.
Right, which gets to what Betty is concerned with, and she's claiming something much different. Betty, good morning. What's your question or your comment? You're calling from Hartville, Ohio, and you're listening on where? What station, honey, are you listening on?
1060.
1060, okay, thanks. And what's your comment or your question for Father Larry or myself?
I truly feel I could not vote for this man, even though I've been a Catholic all my life. I've marched in D.C., I'm against abortion. I feel this man is disgusting. I could not cast my vote for him. I voted Republican several years, even though I didn't like the candidate because of pro-life. However, this man turned me off so badly.
But Betty, let me interrupt you. We're on limited time. But this is what the issue that comes up over and over again. But sweetheart, I have to tell you, and I'm going to turn it over to Father Larry. You are basing it on your feelings of disgust. And if you're saying you're totally disgusted with him, I have to ask you, and I want you to do me a favor and pray about this. Why are you not equally disgusted with how women are exploited through abortion? Not to mention how Hillary Clinton supported her husband during all of his many issues that he had when they were married, not to mention the fact that he was impeached, and even more importantly, with abortion, what it does to women, her support of Planned Parenthood, which does not help women. That should disgust you. That should disgust you, sister. I'm sorry, but I have to say this. You should be disgusted, and I'm not saying you shouldn't be upset with Donald Trump and be angry at some of the things he's said and done, but you should be utterly appalled at what she claims is for women. And if you have been marching in Washington, if you call yourself pro-life, I'm sorry. My Italian is really getting up with all love from the bottom of my heart. Why are you not as disgusted? And you have to move those personal feelings toward a particular candidate, whether it's Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump, and look at what the church says.
Sure.
Father, I'm sorry.
Betty,
I couldn't resist it anymore.
I agree with you. He disgusts me too. But the reality is some of the stuff, but what he stands for behind and some of the things he talks about, like who he's going to put in for the Supreme Court. Those are the things we have to vote for. Because you know what, Betty? I disgust me sometimes. I'm sure there are times that you disgust you sometimes. That's why you go to confession. And so we're all flawed human beings. But if we stand for something beyond it, in spite of my own sickness and weakness and all that stuff, we still got to stand for what's true. And what he's been standing for is what's true about pro-life, what's true about who's going to be the next Supreme Court justices, who's going to be the people around. So that's why I would have to sit there and say, beyond how he looks as a human being, I have to go about what he's standing for behind that.
How could someone not be disgusted by the fact that Hillary Clinton took money from countries that throw brothers and sisters with same-sex attraction off of buildings and treat women like property and they can't go out of the house without their husbands? Nobody is talking about that. Nobody is talking about Planned Parenthood and how disgusting it is that half of the freestanding abortion clinics in this country are unregulated and women are dying. And this is just craziness. I can't take it anymore. I'm sorry.
Her Italian is getting up this morning.
And Betty, I'm not venting this at you. I'm just venting because for the last year, people have been sending me these emails saying that they're disgusted, but they're only looking at one side of the coin. We have to move our feelings out of this and look at what the church gives us. We have teachings that go back 2,000 years, and it's not about a candidate. It is about a platform. Mother Angelica says that she wrote in Jesus one year because she was so disgusted.
Exactly.
Until she realized that she had to vote life because it is truth. It is what the church gives us, and we have to be disgusted by abortion and disgusted by the exploitation of women that way, in addition to praying for Donald Trump and hoping that he gets his act together because he's surrounded by some good people. Amen?
Amen.
All right, we're going to take a break. Whew.
There you go.
Okay, we'll be right back.
Thanks, Betty.
And to all the little girls who are watching this, never doubt that you are valuable and powerful and deserving of every chance and opportunity in the world to pursue and achieve your own dreams.
Which should start with natural
being born
conception.
first,
Yes,
exactly.
being born first. Yeah. You can't do any of those things, with all due respect, Madam Secretary, without being born. Now, I really got my Italian up before the break. This was not necessarily targeted at our last caller, but this is pent-up frustration because many people have written me, and I have repeated this, Father, over and over again on the air. People are really having a skewed version of what the media are selling them, not to say again, and we have also stressed this, as you said, in many ways disgusted by the antics and the issues that have come up with now our President-elect. But why, Father, why, and we have about a minute left, can't people pull back and look at the issues as much as we're like, I can't believe this is the choice we have, but which party and which person has promised not to advance intrinsic evil?
Exactly.
What's going on
That's
here?
the whole
Maybe we
point.
need Dr. Ray Garendi. I thought I'd never say that.
Please.
But maybe we need Dr. Ray Garendi.
Talk about evil. Oh, I'm sorry. No, and I think that even it's like sometimes those people will say about the church, I can't go to Catholic church, there's hypocrites there. And I always say, well, you'll fit right in. I mean, the reality is that the teaching of the church is what's most important. Now, all of us live it the way we need to, but we need to be going that way and striving to be that. So it's the teaching and the revelation of the church and what a party or what an individual stands for.
But why is it that they're only looking at him and not at her? Every time I've gotten an email, it's only been about his problems and not hers.
I think,
why?
Well, you do, but they don't, because they already know that you agree with you already agree with the Catholic thing, so they're not going to bring up. I think that's why the emails don't come to you again, because we all agree that she was very bad.
Yeah, well,
that's what she believes.
I don't know. We just have to go back to the basics of church teaching and look at what the church says. Father, thanks. Tom, thanks so much. We'll see you time tomorrow morning. Father John Ricardo tomorrow.
You've been listening to Catholic Connection with Teresa Tomeo. Catholic Connection is a co-production of Ave Maria Radio and EWTN Radio and carried across the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network. Our producer is Andrew Kruchek. For copies of this program or for more information, visit AveMariaRadio.net. That's AVEMariaRadio.net. Thanks for listening, and join us next time for another edition of Catholic Connection.